1470 WNN.
Talk health, talk wealth, talk politics, talk 1470 and 95.3 FM WNN.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
AMP2.TV presents Tell Us Your Business, where you're invited on the air to tell us what makes your business stand out in the community. It's important we hear from you to tell us all we need to know about what you do best. Tell Us Your Business uses the latest radio and television production systems, and all shows can be seen on AMP2.TV. If you have a question for our guest, call 888-565-1470. Now, let's get ready as our guest hits the airwaves and informs us about what we need to know on Tell Us Your Business.
Hi, I'm author Doris Vilk of the Chatham series, Love Arrested, Love Attempted, and Love Avenged, which is coming soon. Today, I'm here hosting, with pleasure, the show Tell Us Your Biz, and with me is Victoria Landis. Victoria did the graphics on my covers and also edited books 2 and 3. Victoria, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, me first. Thank you. Hi. I am a writer and an artist, and I do editing. I write my own books, and I do graphics and the covers of books, including Doris, and oils on canvas, things like that.
Oh, excellent. So, how did I get started as an author? I was a retired dentist for 29 years. I was actually originally from Havana, Cuba, and have lived all over the world, from the islands of Nassau, Bahamas, to Milan, Italy, Madrid, Spain, ended up in New York with this wonderful accent. I've lived in Bronx and Brooklyn, ended up in Southeast Florida because I absolutely love the beaches. And this story, people say to me, how did you go from being a dentist to being a graphic erotic romance novelist? How does that happen? I had some health issues, and that kept me from doing the dentistry. And I always had this great story in my head. I was always very good at writing, getting those A's in English class. And the story's been in my head about 30 years, but I never had time to write it because I was busy writing patient charts. So I finally had some time. You know, do you remember a few years ago when 50 Shades of Grey became popular and opened up sexuality for women? And you had authors like Sylvia Day with her Crossfire series and Shayla Black with all of her Wicked books. And I was telling my story, my romance story, to one of my hygienists. Her name's Sharon Kotler, and I actually dedicated the first book, Love Arrested, to Sharon. And I told the story to Sharon, and Sharon's like, gee, that is a really good story. You should really write that story. And so I said, well, I could take my romance story and write it up, but it was never saucy at the time. And I'm like, I could sauce it and spice it up a little bit. Why the heck not? You know, dentists tend to be very conservative, right? But, you know, I said, I'm going to tap into my naughty side. And so I took my business from having people smile with their teeth to having people smile by entertaining them with some very steamy and hot books. So the basic story is a model and an actress that's framed for a crime by her body double, and all the adventures that happen to her in prison. And somehow along the way, she meets the love of her life. And how does she get there? You have to read the books to find out. So with that said, I'd like to have Victoria, who's my guest today, tell you a little bit about what she knows about the books and tell us a little bit about her books as well.
Okay. First, we'll go into your books. I probably did something you didn't know, but I went to Amazon and I read some of your reviews. And on one of the books, you only have 1 3-star review. The Esther 4s and 5s. So I read the 1 3-star review, and the woman said, "Well, the characters aren't realistic," and I started laughing because apparently the woman doesn't know the genre you write, or she didn't know what she was reading, because what you write is really a fantasy, isn't it? It's not real life. It's a fantasy.
Absolutely.
It's supposed to be a fantasy.
It's supposed to be your best book boyfriend, your best book girlfriend, and 50 Shades of Grey. Was it realistic for Christian, a billionaire, to fall in love with a college graduate, Anastasia?
Oh, and he was
Hell no.
28 years old and a
Yes,
self-made
and
billionaire.
And if you looked at the timeline, they got married within, I think it ends up being like 6 weeks after they met. My story is about, in the beginning, it's really a prison story. It's like Orange is the New Black or Wentworth, a woman's prison, a show out of Australia that are both on Netflix. And it's a combination of taking the sexy scenes from books like 50 Shades of Grey and Crossfire, and then also taking like your Lifetime TV movie of the week, where you have that gorgeous guy that's the biggest, evil, nasty.
But he's gorgeous.
He's gorgeous, but he's abusive. And in the end, you always have the ending that we like to have.
Exactly.
And I don't know about, people in our audience, make sure if you want to call in, the number is 888-565-1470. I'll say that again. That's 888-565-1470, and call in if you have any questions. But, you may be in a very happy relationship. I myself have been married for 34 years, which I say is not enough on most days, but too long on some. But, you could have the sweetest relationship, and my husband and I, we're like Winnie the Pooh. But sometimes you want a little sauciness. You need that little Tigger, too. And that's what my stories are about. It's about, and if you look at the other reviews, all the 5s, which are mostly what everybody gave me, and I think there's like 1 4. Why do people like the book so much? It's really because the scenes, the senses that are created, the books, even though there's sex and there's romance, there's passion, there's abuse, there's lust, there's,
a lot of steamy scenes.
A
right,
lot of
steamy scenes.
Even though you have all of that, it's really a book about all the senses: sight, smell, hearing. The sound,
touch.
taste,
A lot of touch.
All the senses. And it's really a book about a woman's empowerment and her resilience, because Susan Chatham, she is not only hot stuff, she is tough and fierce, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was going to bring up Susan next. Let's talk about your main character. Susan is an actress, and she can dance and she can sing, and she's a gourmet cook, and she's an athlete. And it reminds me very much of some of the characters in soap operas, too. We watch those, and we don't expect those to be real. We want those characters to be perfect. And
Yes.
Susan is perfect, except you do actually, I won't tell the readers, the viewers what it is, but she does have her flaws. She's not perfect, but she's pretty close. And it's enjoyable watching her take her little journey through all these trials and tribulations that you invent for her, which, by the way, I can't believe the trials and tribulations you've invented for her. They're I really don't know how your brain works. So, why don't do you have any, what was your inspiration for some, we don't want to give away too much.
We
but,
don't want to give away too much,
but
back in college, I had done I did a lot of research. And I was very involved in community service. I always have been, and actually children have been my passion. So it's the exact opposite of writing saucy books, is to have a passion for children, because I was an immigrant and I did have critical controlling parents. And so I have my heart really goes out to children and child causes like kids in distress and women in distress. And so I had done a report on abuse. And so it's not like I'm like this wicked sick person, but the report on
I don't
the
think
abuse,
anybody thinks that.
the report on the abuse, I always thought, how could somebody do this to somebody they love? And certainly the villain in the book, he's a sick person. He's definitely a sociopath. He definitely comes from the model of the person who's been abused and then is going to abuse others. But because of the abuse that Susan suffers is also how she meets
the love of her life. Right.
And so, and that happens to a lot of us in our real lives, that sometimes we can't be a victim, that what seems like a negative ends up being a positive for us. In my case, developing some health issues that took me away from my dental career gave me the time to go ahead and write the book. And to make it, people, a lot of the comments, a lot of the testimonials say that how it reached people, it touched people on such a deep level. And I think it's because even though a lot of these scenes may be made up scenes, even though I did do my research, it wasn't like people say, "Oh, have you been to prison?" or "Have you done
Why,
this?"
yes.
Or, "Are you and your husband this wild couple?" And here we are, like Cinderella and Winnie the Pooh. I don't know about that, but I guess you'll have to read the books and wonder about Doris Vilk and her real life relationships.
Yeah.
But that was really it. That it was the gift of having the time, because of my hand bothering me or my back or whatever personal health issues I had, gave me the time to put into writing the books. And in the beginning, it sounded like patient notes, he did this, she did this, they went here. But that's why I edited. And I tell people that are, looking to write a book, make sure that you really edit your book many, many times, because it's so easy to make mistakes, or the story doesn't flow, or you made a mistake with the ages or the continuity of it. And then get a good team together. In my case, I had Greg Brickman, who does my formatting for me, and that's how the book's self-published on CreateSpace. And they're available on Amazon.com and also through my website at dorisvilk.com. And that's like milk with a V. People are always like curious about that Lithuanian name Vilk, but it's really very easy to pronounce. And so dorisvilk.com has links to all the social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, all those social media sites, my blog. It'll list events. It'll have a link to my YouTube channel. And so you need a good team together. So I have Greg Brickman, who's my formatter. I have Patty Nolan, edited Love Arrested. She's with the company About the Words, which she owns. And we have Tamra Palzer, who does my YouTube for me, Zephyr Haddon, who does my website for me.
Good
but
Lord.
The most important person is right here in this room with me, Victoria Landis, because she does the covers. She's doing the editing for books 2 and working on book 3 right now as we speak. She's designed my business cards. Okay, we know it looks like a condom packet. It's supposed to. It's a Susan Chatham series. What didn't kill her made her insatiable. Prepare to be aroused. And oh, no, no, no. It's not just you. It's definitely getting hot in here. So with that, let's hear a little bit about my most important person on my street team, Victoria Landis.
Wow, you have a very big team. I had no idea. I didn't realize.
Yes.
I enjoy editing quite a lot, and Doris, I have to say, is a wonderful client and person to work with because she's very open, and I think that's an important thing when you're writing, especially if you're new to writing, is to listen to other people and be open to their ideas. And she's the same way with the covers. I do my best covers when people just let me do what I need to do. And my worst covers come out when the author has a presupposed idea of what they want, and they're very insistent on it. And those don't come out very well. I don't show them very often, but I'm very proud of yours. I think they came out great, and they have a theme to them. And you were very, very open to it. I propose several ideas, and I do rough samples, and she'll say, "Ooh, I like that one." I said, "Me too." And so then we go and we develop that one further. So the third one will be along the same lines. It will be a similar vein. It'll be, I guess, a body part of some part.
Absolutely.
A
steamy
body part, but it'll have the black background and the red and the black and the white. It'll have the same feel to it. We want to keep it consistent. I wanted to ask you a question. Is there going to be a fourth book in the series?
We've talked about and thought about a fourth book. People are asking me to have the story continue. There's also a lot of other characters in the book besides Susan and the villain and her love of her life. And there's some relationships that go on with some of these other characters. And there's been demand, especially from my blog and frequently asked questions. Am I going to write more about some of these other characters? And will that lead to another series of totally different characters, or stay with Susan and the love of her life? I haven't made all the decisions yet. Certainly, I think a fourth book may really be in the running right now.
I think it might be necessary.
And then we'll go from there. So, Vicki, we started with covers. How about you show us the covers that you've designed for your own books, and tell us a little bit about the books that you've written.
Okay, I'm a good cover client too because I listen to me. This one, my first one, is a novel set on Oahu where I lived for 12 years. It's a suspense. And it's all about the Hawaiian people, and I lived there for 12 years, so people, when they read it, say that it makes them feel like they actually know what it's like to live there, which was my goal.
Yes.
Because people write about Hawaii, and they tend to write about pineapples and pig roasts and, ooh, look, a hula skirt, and I know all about Hawaii. No, it goes much deeper than that. So I wanted people to know what it was like to be an actual person living there in day-to-day without even interacting with tourists at all. My second novel is Alias Mitzi and Mac. It's based in Palm Beach County. It's about a retired couple, and you're going to love this. They run out of money. The accountant runs away with the rest, and then Grandma basically pimps out Grandpa.
Oh, my goodness. That is awesome.
It's an interesting thing. And then this was just released in August. This is a compendium of humorous essays. I've been writing a humor column in the Parklander magazine for almost 10 years. And I write a lot of other humorous essays besides. So this is a compilation of over 80 of them. It's called A Little Bit Sideways. It touches on just about every subject matter you can think of, and I've gotten some really good reviews for it. I'm really excited about it. In fact, one of them called me the Irma Ben Bombeck of our times.
Oh,
so that was
awesome.
Great.
And
you
you're
know?
also the chair of Sleuth Fest, right? The mystery writers. I think that anybody that wants to get into writing, as we've talked about, needs a good editor, needs a good team, needs a good graphic artist to do their covers, needs a good editor, formatter, publicity person, and all that. But I always found it in dentistry it was important to belong to organizations. And as a writer, I belong to the Mystery Writers of America and also the Romance Writers. Tell me a little bit about Sleuth Fest, because I know you're very involved with the Mystery Writers of America.
Yeah, I've been a member since 2003.
Wow, that's incredible.
And for 9 years, I ran the raffle. And then 4 years ago, I became the co-chair of Sleuth Fest. Sleuth Fest is in its 24th year. We are a niche conference for teaching how to write. We're not a fan conference, and we're not huge. This year, we're capping the attendance at 250. So if you want to go sleuthfest.com and sign up now because spots are filling up fast. We have Andrew Gross as our keynote. Mm-hmm. We have Dr. Catherine Ramsland as our forensic guest of honor. We also have 4 guest authors coming in, Hallie Efron and Christy Monty from the PJ Parish team, Hank Philippi Ryan, and James R. Ben. And we've got workshops that you cannot believe. We've got 2 full tracks. It goes on for 4 days, 3.5 days of 2 full tracks of writing for the novice all the way up to the master level, all on dialogue and pacing and plotting and characterizations and settings and all sorts of things. It's amazing. Then we have one entire track that does nothing but the business and the marketing of being in the publishing industry. What's the publishing industry about? How do you go about either self-publishing or going for traditional publishing? Mm-hmm. We have agents and editors come. Well, first there's a 4th track, and that's a forensic track. And it's all about, we bring in experts, gunshot experts, gun experts,
I noticed
medical
you
experts.
mentioned that. One of the reasons that I enjoy working with you as an editor is because you help make my books more realistic, because you do look for the little, I call it the fine print, that Vicky will find something that may not seem plausible or isn't really reality. So even though the books are fiction books, I mean, in fiction you can make up anything you want, right? Like we talked about Winnie the Pooh and Tigger, stuffed animals that run around and talk and are friends and eat honey. That's the whole thing with fiction, is that you can make up whatever. But I think you've shown me a lot about the finer print of making it as realistic, because it becomes more enjoyable to the reader, right?
I think there's a balance there. I mean, it is a fantasy, and the characters are wildly perfect, and they have incredible bedroom lives that you and I could only dream about.
And I do.
And apparently a lot of women do. But there are certain aspects, like in your books, you're bringing in aspects of, there's a criminal aspect to it. And when you bring in a criminal aspect or crimes being committed, your readers are going to expect that certain elements of that ring true.
Yes.
And yes, so that's the part
yes,
that...
and that's why people said, I thought you were a graphic erotic romance writer. What are you doing in the mystery writers group, and how did you get accepted to that? And it's because, yes, my book is graphic, and it's erotic, and it's a romance, and there's love and lust and passion, but there's a good story there. There is a story there. And that was my frustration in enjoying a sexy genre and liking the book boyfriends for me, or book girlfriends, or whatever, turns you on, which my books are very diverse. And, the part about that is that even though you want that, you also want it to be realistic, and you want it to be sexy, but you want it to be a good story. And a lot of this genre is just, I would call it 90% sex and 10% story. And I didn't like that. I did not like that. I liked something, a 50 Shades of Grey and 50 Shades Darker and 50 Shades Freed. She starts to do a little bit of that too, in that she starts to bring in a little bit of story. But I would say my books have the sex in them, but there's also a lot of story. And so in book one, you may start reading those first 100 pages and say, what the heck, I don't see anything hot in here. And then you get past that page 100, I forget what the actual page number is, and you're like, let me turn down the air conditioner. And the husband may be like, what is that girl reading? What is that woman reading now? She sure seems to be a lot more interested lately. And
that's funny,
that's
because I have a friend of mine from the Midwest. She's near Chicago, and she's a good Midwestern girl. And she read one of the books. And she blushes if you say anything out loud about anything in that manner. And I asked her, I said, so did you enjoy it? And she says, oh, yes. I said, well, did your husband benefit from you having read it? And she said, oh, he didn't read it. I said, that's not what I asked. I said, did he benefit from you having read it? And she turned purple. And I knew I knew that he had, so he was very happy that she read it. So, it does. It can spice things up a little bit, get the imagination rolling there.
Yeah, so both, for yourself, if you want to feel a little steamy, fantasize a little bit, enjoy a little love and lust and passion and romance for yourself, then you can read the books for that. You can read the books to learn and enhance and maybe learn a few little tricks and treats. Halloween's coming up. We'd rather have treats than tricks, but sometimes a little bit of both. There's a little bit of massage going on in the story. And, it can be quite entertaining and educational.
I'll say. Speaking of, in the course of editing book 2, I ran into some things I had not heard of, and I had to look them up. So, of course, what do? You Google it, right? Okay. So I did that. So now, all of a sudden, I really have to worry about my browser history. And that expression that they say, make sure if I die, make sure that you erase my browser history.
So if you like all our books, you like what you've heard today, make sure you look on DorisVilk.com, and that has links to everything, and buying the books on Amazon. And Vicky's books are also available through Amazon.com. Victoria Landis, and that's a little bit sideways, Mitzi and Mac, and Blink It Away. My books are Love Arrested and Love Attempted. And look us up on Amazon.com and add some joy to your life. If you have any questions, make sure you give us a call. The radio station is 888-565-1470 on 1470 AM, 95.3 FM, and AMP2 TV Productions, Facebook, and Periscope. Thank you for joining us today.
This has been Tell Us Your Business, where a special guest comes on every week and tells us what they do. All shows can be seen on amp2.tv, and if you wish to be a guest, call 866-224-5422 and tell us about your business. That's 866-224-5422. This has been an amp2.tv production.